Hey guys, this is Chad from the Battle Warrior Podcast, and I am thanking you guys for downloading this episode this week. Special guest this week is Raymond Wright, returning for his second part episode we recorded a couple weeks ago. And guys, if you are available this week, Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m., go visit my Facebook live, brand new Battle Warrior Brands going live 6 to 7 p.m. Central Time this Wednesday, guys. Pay attention. We're going to have some fun. We're going to have a lot of guests. And by the way, join this movement to change the culture. Once again, guys, thank you for this week's download of the Battle Warrior Podcast. And here's your episode now.
That's never happened.
All of a sudden, I'm like, where did he go?
I was talking the whole time.
I'm staring. I'm like, okay, I know it's frozen here.
Dude, no, like literally, my internet has never, my internet has never died in the middle of a conversation ever.
Well, obviously, he didn't want me to toot on me being at the church.
That was funny, dude. I was like, who am I talking to? That's so awesome. Oh my goodness. Always messes up a good time, but it's all good. It's
yeah, I mean, I can roll back into it, but yeah, I mean, that's what's occurring, and everything that's occurring right now in my moment, man. I'm very grateful for everything, and I'm going to make sure we're recording. Yes, we are recording. So I'm not fighting it whatsoever. So like, to be 100% blatantly honest about a female in my life and all that stuff, I haven't taken the time yet to write it down. And secondly, he could drop her on my lap that I just don't, I'm not even focusing on it right now.
Yeah. And that I completely took it out of the, I completely took it out of the ball game. And you know what? And I don't want to say out of the ball, but I'm not seeking anything. Like, I work with a lot of women.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I literally work with a lot of women. So, I never want to cross that boundaries, especially like I always try to keep it very professional. You know what I mean? Because, again, I know my mom's life and a lot of the women's life in my family. And I really have a passion to truly help women who are struggling, like try to be someone for these ladies. Like I wish someone was there for my mom. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I can't choose which lady is receiving and open to either, being coached or joining me in business or wanting to change their generational curses. Like I'm completely all about breaking generational chains. So you got to keep it very professional because, same thing, some ladies are so used to men. As soon as they show like any type of like communications, then they got these men that are posting pictures or, coming at them for favors or whatever. And then of course, on the other side where you have a lot of women who have been hurt by men, that as soon as they think that there's a good man, then they open up this like, oh, he must like me. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
And that is definitely like, I just don't have. So once you start, like I always talk about standards, right? You have to have a set of standards. You have to have a level of standards, and then you have to have core values. If you don't have a set foundation of core values or a set standard, then you're always going to lower your standards to meet other people's expectations. But what I try to do is I try to increase my standards and then have to raise them up to my level. You know what I mean? Like love them where they're at, but never lower myself to please anybody. Keep myself because I know how broken that I once was and how low that I used to feel, right? And when I got around life leadership, everybody elevated me. Like it was all about elevation. It was, all, on a tide, all boats rise. You know what I mean? And that's what it was like for me. So I learned, like, I keep my core values written on the board right there. And so I just not you, and no matter what, all personalities are different. Everybody's going to mesh a little different. But the idea is not to hone on anybody else's values that don't match up with yours. It's to actually build and identify those who do, right? Like, and that's different. So like if somebody's like very character driven, like when I look at Eric Thomas, what I love so much about the Eric Thomas is Eric Thomas tells you, like, after party, like, I ain't going to no after party. Like, I want to go home and be with my wife. Like, I came, I did your gig, you paid me, I go home now. and I love that, because I'm not one, like, and it, to each his own. I don't judge it, right? I don't judge it. But I had to learn that each one of us does it a little different. Like me, like if I go to an event and then they go like to this yacht party and it's, no offense, and it's secular music and it's all this stuff, I don't mind engaging, but I would rather go where I'm comfortable. I would rather go where I feel I'm needed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like that whole life, it doesn't attract me. I'd rather be on the beach with a group of people, like enjoying ourselves, acting like a bunch of kids with a bunch of money, but enjoying like elevated conversations. You know what I mean? Rather than being in a club with the flashing lights and the music and the bubbles and all that stuff. But to each his own, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And this is just how it's been lately with this. So, and I love them to death, their family, but like, you know, I had to go to I went to a surprise party a couple of weeks ago, and I love the transformation this person did from where it was coming in to seeing the stress, getting a new position where they're at now. Like they're amazing people, but they had the thing at a bar, which is fine. And I know that, you know, I know the bar or whatever. So like I went in there and, you know, some of the players I played softball with are in there, and, you know, they're getting all kind of not snotty, but just cocky because they're drinking, because they know I'm the clean one. I was the only clean one on the team. And here I'm the one, you know, and I'm going to sound selfish here for a little 2 seconds, but it's like, you don't hear me complain playing softball. And I'm the one that where I'm like what Sal would say in Andy's thing, where it's like, I'm going to take that ball, shove it down your throat, just because that's how competitive. So like, no matter what, I would never run out of gas unless I literally got hit by a truck. So like, there's weeks where I pushed myself too far, and yeah, I shouldn't have been playing, but I did. But in general, we're in there, and you had the players where they knew they teased me because I was clean. And then there was our designated team coach in there, same guy as us, same age. He walked up at me, and I looked at him straight. I said, obviously, I had a Bush NA in my hand and I'm like, I'm good. You know, I'm like, I got to peel out of here pretty quick here. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I said, I love hanging out with all you guys. I love coming to I don't love going to the bars, but I don't mind it now. Like, I welcome some of it back just to go out and get something to eat. But I'm like, I'm at the point where it's like, okay, enough's enough. It's time for me to go home. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, I don't know what it's like to have a Saturday off where I'm not working or doing something for myself or whatever it was. Cause I literally just came back from the trip. And it's almost, you work so much on your own vision that you forget. And I don't want to emphasize the work. It's just, you're so used to being in your own little world that you forget what it's like to be normal at that Saturday night, or what a normal pattern was.
Yeah.
And I looked at him straight out. I said, well, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm doing. This is, where, I'm looking to go, or whatever it is. And I bring up God when I need to in that stuff, but it's the right time and right place with some of those guys. And I just said straight, I'm like, dude, I'm being led to do this, whatever it was. And this, down at community in Oshkosh, having a blast, whatever it was. Make a story short, we went into the dream of what he's like, why are you working so hard? I'm like, you want to know the reason why I'm working hard? He goes, yeah. I said, I've had my dreams of having my own farm and all that stuff, but I'm like, this is the dream that's calling me right now. Being out in the mountains in a UTV, just bearing it to the axle. And I'm like, you crawl out of it, laughing like a schoolgirl, like how, Sean was, or whatever, that same thing. laughing. You kind of shrug your shoulders and not say, not because I'm rich. I did bring that out a little bit, say because I'm rich, but I'm like, I shrug my shoulders, just laugh and be like, you know what, guys, you guys are working. I'm doing this and I'm enjoying this, and being a kid and enjoying life, just being free.
Yeah.
And I'm an emphasis freedom, guys, not the rich, whatever, like the freedom part.
No, absolutely.
So that's why I told him, I said, this is why I'm working so hard. I'm like, because I want to take a week off and just go out west and just bury UTVs, having a blast and just chuckle about it.
Without having to come back with all the stress and having to go back into the grind.
Yes.
You come back and actually go back to doing what you love.
Yep. And that's why I told him, I said, I don't mind here being with you guys. I enjoy watching the game, but I'm like, this isn't the life what you guys are doing is not my lifestyle anymore. And you could just tell, like, and not even a cocky way or whatever, like you could tell I was way different in that place. And
absolutely, man, I can relate so much. I mean, I have 20 years clean, so I got tons of stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it definitely is. It's not that. What I had to learn, you know, when Jerry was telling me, you know, the first time I ever heard it. Now, you know, everybody says it. It's Ray. You are the lump sum of the 5 people you spend most of the time with. And I really had to think about it. And I'm like, okay, well, like most of the people I hang out with on their drinkers, they're, you know, potheads, they're cheating on their spouses, they're horrible with finances, they're in debt, and I'm like, yeah, man, like, dude, no wonder I'm always so frustrated, because I don't have anybody aiming for anything, right? So when I started aiming, when I started actually to learn that there was targets, and then there was goals, and then there was opportunity, and there was possibilities, you know, then I honestly started to go towards that. And the more that I chased towards opportunity, the farther people fell behind. Not because I left them there, because they just didn't want to go on the journey with me. And I still, you know, social media is great because you still get to talk to these guys and goof with them, but I don't spend time with them. You know, it would be nice to get together and have like a reunion one time, but for me, man, I'm going to be 42 next month. And, you know, I have 4 children. My oldest daughter has a severe disability. You know, life is very precious, and it's hard to spend it doing things that don't add value to your life. And that's really what I'm like. Like, I either want to be adding value to my life or pouring into somebody else's. But I don't want to spend time wasting doing frivolous, foolish things that brings nothing of substance to my life, right? And a lot of people think that's boring. But when I'm meeting amazing people and I'm having amazing conversations and I'm seeing how other people are succeeding in their journey, it keeps this fire in me, right? To see these guys, the Ed Milet's and Eric Thomas's at 50 years old, 51 years old, you know, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and you see all these guys who are just absolutely in love with what they do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we can go forever on this, but I don't know what it was. Ed had a video, was it last week, about like the guys fixing his house or something? And he's like, I was so pissed off about the contractor not doing it. And then I walk in, the guys were dancing, whatever. And he goes, then it just clicked. He's like, these guys are making $10 an hour or whatever it was at the time, he said.
Yeah.
And he's like, they know their role in life and they're having fun doing it. He's like, why am I pissed off?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
I don't know when he posted that, but it was, I think, last week.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you know, I think I was talking to a gentleman today and I was saying, you know, it's amazing when you do what you love to do, right? But really what really it's what I don't want to say it sucks, but what really, because everybody needs to produce. I believe men were created to work, right, from the beginning, right? God created Adam to work, you know, the garden, right? He created us to work. And the problem is most men, and I'm not even talking about women because, you know, women are amazing, but I'm specifically talking about men, is men forgot how to work, or they work towards something that has no meaning. And that's a scary place to be, you know, when everybody, you know, everybody should have a job, right? But everybody should be trying to find their work, right? Miles Monroe says it best. Miles Monroe says you can be fired from your job. You can't be fired from the work God gave you to do. That's why I think it's so important for men to understand, like, we're in such a time right now. Andy Frisella is I love Andy Frisella because he's so upfront and personal about really the work that men need to do and our country needs to do to get back on the right track and stop falling for all this yoki doke and all this, like, whatever I'm not a political person, but I'm a person that stands for individual freedom. You know what I mean? And the coercion that goes on and the control that goes on and the manipulation that goes on and the fear mongering that people put people in, because that's how the enemy consumes, right? And I think we're in a time right now where men need to stand up. They need to find their passion. They need to find their purpose again, and they need to find the work that they love to do, and they need to do it in such a way where it brings value to other people's lives, right? Like I like I get really, like, I have like a ball of fire going in me right now, but I'm trying to.
Chad's on a podcast. This is a reason why, and I'm gonna say it this way. Typically, people would be rolling in bed watching Netflix right now. You're my second episode today. I love this stuff. I love doing podcasts. It's just so. And the thing about, like, even podcasts or just in general, like face to face, whatever it is, as much as times I'm very grumpy at times, and you get it too, like, when you're happy internally, you can be alone, you could travel alone, you can just, you know, you can be not self-sufficient, but we're not a loner. It's just a lot of times it's fun being alone just to kind of learn and all that stuff. And like for me, that, and I had something pop in here, so my brain just paused for 2 seconds here. That was my ADD. But like for me, I could do this around the clock. Like I could do podcasts around the clock. I can do, and I'm gonna be dropping a book here another month and a half, and I'm gonna be putting a lot. Don't yell at me for this, but I'm gonna be going in debt in the next year or two, just trying to get everything up and running. Because for me, I know this is my only shot. Not only shot, but like, this is where he cleared a path out and said, all right, dude, you've been saying you want a business. You said, hey, stop make it crash so I can get a business, whatever the need was at the time, back a couple of years ago, when I, said, hey, I want to run a business. I want to be, prior to me getting baptized and saved. And now I'm like, it's like the party and see, where it's like, boom, like, we're going to block everything, buddy. You're making a run. Now go run. And for me, that's where I'm like, some people get pissed how I say this, but I'm not afraid to go bankrupt trying to make it in this world for what he wants me to do.
Amen.
And it's not so much, I don't fear that. It's just, I know that if he wants me to go left and he wants me to keep laying everything out, he's going to want you to take risk. And a bold risk, or whatever it is. And I think Craig Rochelle always said bold prayers. I think he wrote a book about that, bold prayer. I don't quote me on it, because I love, like, him. I love TJ Jakes. I love those boys. So just said it, but you have to be bold to pursue on that journey.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, you know what? I will take a nut shot to pay for whatever I need to pay for these books to get out. So like my first one coming out is about people's story, like you were talking about. And I think it's going to be called Awakening the Warrior from Within, is what I'm going to, because I want the warrior theme, because obviously I'm the battle warrior. Chad means battle warrior, but I want it to where people laid their story out And then they said, hey, I went through all this BS. I made it on the opposite side. You can do it too.
Amen. Absolutely. Well, and I think,
go ahead.
No, that's important. That's important because, you look at a lot of influencers or people who have massive influence. I believe there's a huge difference. I believe influencers, and I don't want to say a lot of influencers do things for selfish gain. Influence is to have influence over people's lives because of your story. Because, like, if you look at Tim's story, right, and you look at, Grant Cardone's interviewed him. Tom Bios interviewed him. I think Tim Laus has interviewed him. But when you look at these people who have, they've implanted this influence in the people's lives where it actually helps people start the journey on their own. It really, the books, you know what I mean? I can do the magic of thinking big changed my life. When I read that book, it exploded in my brain, right? The book that you're writing isn't for everybody.
No.
It is for who it's for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's going to change their lives. We're not supposed to have influence over everyone. Dean Graziosi does this thing where he draws the circle and he talks about the 7.5 billion people in the world. And then, there's the layer where it's like 4 billion and then 2 billion and 1 billion. And then he goes all the way down to where he puts a dot and he goes, that dot is your circle of influence. But too many times we worry about trying to impress everyone or trying to influence everyone that we forget about the people that are literally right in front of us that need our heart. They need our story. They need the transformation. That's why I say, my motto in life is everything I do has to be pointed back to the kingdom. And I do everything through leadership, which is nothing but serving. And then it's all about the transformation, which is a personal growth. It's an internal growth. So it's the kingdom, it's leadership, and it's transformation. And the 3 words that narrows it all down, which is love, serve, and grow. And I have to ask myself, like Brendan Burchard talks about, every day I have to ask myself, did I love, did I serve, and did I grow today? And if I feel like I can do those 3 things, then I'm living one hell of a productive life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And our old saying at my old church was love, love, go. So like nice. Love yourself with all your, or love God with all your heart, love your neighbor like as yourself with whatever, and then go out and serve people.
I like that. Love, go.
And he was the one that baptized me. Me and him joke around a little bit because he's like, you're just too damn cocky at times, buddy. I'm like, I'm not cocky. I just do my own thing. He's like, cocky. I'm like, just stop putting me under the cocky thing. But
that's funny.
So what I'm going to do is you can go ahead and plug tell everyone where we can find you, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm pretty simple. I have my website's raymondwright.online. A young man made that for me a while ago before I even knew what really a website was. It's Ray Wright Senior on Instagram, and then it's Raymond Wright on Facebook. Those are kind of like my platforms. That's where I do most of my stuff. I haven't really gotten into like doing all the fancy schmancy stuff on technology yet. So maybe that day will come one time, right? But I think for me, that's going to be when I hire somebody, because I don't think like, look, you're good with some things and you can learn other things, but some things are just better to let other people do.
Yes. And I have a friend that is a head auditor for a company. And I told her, I'm like, do you know how to run a business? She's like, I don't know how to run a business. I say, you know how to run a business. You just haven't. I'm like, you know how to do that stuff. So in my mind, I'm like, I should probably hire her down the road to have her account my budget.
Dude,
she's very, very good at it.
Yeah, man. And it takes a lot of, it takes a lot of pressure off you to do actually what you're great at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This is what I'm great at.
Yeah.
I even told my sister too, because I'm launching and you're seeing the warning, like 13 countdown beginning.
Yeah, I seen that.
I told her straight out, I said, I know you're completely opposite of me. And I'm like, I'm highly active in the middle of everything, creation, whatever. And I'm like, I know you're, but she's very good at what she does. And she's slowly creeping, not say creeping, but she's slowly finding herself free again after cancer and all that. But I'm like, I know you're very good at budgeting. And I'm like, I don't want to put you in a box of that. But I'm like, if I get too damn busy, I'm like, I will give you the login codes for everything and I'll pay you under the table. I'm like, just come in, just take care of whatever you need to take care of. Make sure I'm clear, money's in the bank, whatever. And I'm like, if you want to do the books, do the books. If I get like overwhelmed. She's like, yeah, I'll zoom in and, go remote in there and do whatever. I'm like, I know what you're good at.
Yeah, dude. But I mean, you need that. You really do need that, man. When you're trying to create so much. I mean, these people that have, huge followings, dude, they have teams of people, man, or they've mastered the art. Like I look at some of these Instagram gurus, man, they've mastered the art, but a lot of them, they say they do it themselves, but I know a lot of people from the behind the scenes, and I know what they have done. And I know, you know what I mean? Like you can't become this huge success without the help of others.
Well, so